One of the most useful validation options is to check for an empty field. We specified this option on our serial number field but never showed how it worked. So let's try it on our first name field. We'll go to Manage Database. We'll go find our name first field, go into Options, and we'll check Not Empty. It's as simple as that. Click OK. And when we're doing data entry, we can skip that field and go down to here. Nothing seems to happen. I can go down to the next field and it still hasn't validated for empty. Just realize that some fields validate when you tab or commit, and some fields validate only when you commit. And there's a reason behind this. You have to commit on this one because it's a little annoying if every time you leave a field empty, it goes ahead and says, oh, this field's empty, you have to fill it in now. What if you want to go down, to the fourth field down and skip the third field and enter it and then come back later? And really has to do with you're really not entering data into it when you're leaving it empty, but on other fields where you have an issue where you tab and it goes ahead and gives you a validation message, well, that's a different story. You've actually entered data that is not acceptable. You've actually changed that field. So it's a little bit different for is empty. There's a couple of reasons why it reacts the way it does. And also notice that when it does react, when it does validate, it says revert record here. This is different than what we saw on our other validations. It said revert field. So if we choose revert record, remember we have Osborne here, and then it comes up and brings up another message, do you want to revert the changes since the last entered? Well, that's your only choice. You notice that Osborne goes away and anything you typed in will go away. So leaving a field empty gives you a different validation. You want to be observant about this. You don't want to go ahead and think that it said revert field there. Be observant in FileMaker, and when you are, you're really going to make it easier on yourself and easier on your users because you can explain to them how to do things better. So let's go ahead and take a look at Manage Database. I'm going to turn off that first name validation option. And then we're going to go over to our unique option. And we're going to do that on our email field. So let's go find our email field. Notice it's not indexed right now. As soon as we check unique, notice that it indexes it. If you go back into options and storage, turn it off, wham, it's back on. So you have no choice. That's because when you check for unique, it has to look at the current records entry and check all the records inside the database to make sure it's unique. It uses the index to make that quicker, just like it makes a find more quick. So let's go ahead and click OK and see how that works. We'll go down to this email field, and I'm going to see what we have in here right now. We'll choose Insert from Index. And you see we have two email addresses, so I'm going to go ahead and choose that one and paste it. And then notice when we go down to the next field, that's when it actually goes ahead and causes the validation to occur. I don't have to commit the record, I just have to tab to the next field. And notice it says revert field here. That's different than revert record. When we hit revert field, you notice that it's going to go ahead and just take that value out. So we'll go into Insert from Index, choose JMO at FileMakerPros.com, and then we can simply go ahead and change this. In fact, if we go ahead and tab to the next field, we can say, allow this duplicate value, yes or no. We'll choose no, and allow us to go ahead and type right in there. And that should accept that, so we'll go ahead and see what happens there, and it accepts it, so that's great. So let's move on to the rest of the options here. Let's go for existing. Manage Database. We're going to go to our category field, and notice it's not indexed either. As soon as we go ahead and change the validation to existing value, it has to index it because it works a lot like the unique, except it says, oh, I've got to check and see if there's at least one value inside of this database that matches this one. Now, I don't find this very useful, but I want to demonstrate it because sometimes you know about a feature and you never use it for years and you go, oh, this is the perfect situation. I haven't found one of those examples that says, aha, this is exactly where to use it. But it may exist out there for you, and so we'll go ahead and show how it works. So if we go ahead and look at the index on this one, see what we have in there? We have all three choices, so if we go ahead and choose any of these choices here, it's going to have no problem with it, no validation. It's when we go ahead and type in something and make a different choice that's going to give us that validation. Now, I don't see this as a very good option because let's say you create a new database and you have 0 records in it and you make a value list and you go to choose your first choice and you enter it and it's on no other records, it won't allow you to enter that. So I don't see where you can really use this very well. But let's go to Manage Database and show you a better option for this on the category field. We'll go ahead and uncheck that and choose Member of a Value List. So it has to be a member of categories in order to use it. Now that I see as valuable. That means that on the first record of your database that you've ever entered, you can choose any value from this pop-up menu, and you can go ahead and choose any value no matter what, as long as it's in this value list. You just can't enter something that's not in the value list, like that. And so that's the key there. I think that's a better option, more useful, so we'll stick with that one. And then let's try one more. Go to Manage Database, go down to our State field, and we'll go into Options, and we'll look at validating a maximum number of characters is 2. Click OK, click OK. Come down to our State field, we'll type in W. That's OK. WV, that's fine. As soon as we try to go to 3, then it's going to give us that validation message and we can revert the field. So here's a bunch of validation options. Remember how they work. Remember when they validate. These are all important observations to understand validation better.